Um, so I basically have two questions for you.
Okay. So can you, before you tell me, is it okay? Can you tell me what is your background? Do you believe in something? Are you religious? You're not religious?
I'm a naturalist, humanist, physicalist. Is that enough for you? Yes.
Sure. Okay.
Agnostic atheist.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Sure. Go ahead.
That's just I don't primarily call myself an atheist. I don't like the term. It's a byproduct. It's a byproduct of my worldview. Like theism is a byproduct of yours, right?
Okay,
so,
sure. No problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so what can I do for you?
Yeah, cool. So I wanted to ask you, since you didn't have anybody else on, I thought I would pop in and say hi. Seen a couple of your streams and things before, because they're coming up in my YouTube feed. Yeah. So my question is, because I'm kind of interested to see a broad range of Islamic views on these two questions. So the question is, what is your understanding of the hidden or unseen world in the Islamic worldview, or in Islam? You have the unseen, or sometimes people call it the unseen world, sometimes they call it the hidden world. And what do you think encompasses the unseen and hidden world?
Yeah, I don't understand what you mean, but why? What do I think about the unseen world in Islam? Like, there are things which can be visible to us as human beings when we are in this period of the test that we're living in right now, and there are things that are not visible to us. For instance, you would consider paradise and hellfire from the unseen world because we have not seen them, but we still believe in them. We would consider angels to be from the unseen world because they are beings that exist. In fact, they are around us, but we do not see them. Therefore, they are from the unseen world. You can say the creator is from the unseen world because we've not seen the creator with the physical eyes that we use. Now, many of these unseen things are going to become seen, for example, after resurrection. So we will see hellfire, we'll see heaven, we'll see angels, we'll see many things that we do not see right now, but we are going to see other things. Now, Allah in the Quran mentions, for example, in many different places, but Allah mentions in the Quran that there are creation that we don't know. In chapter 16 of the Quran, for example, Surah An-Nahl, Allah mentions that we create what you do not know. Or Allah creates what we do not know. So there are creations that are created by Allah that we do not know. After Allah mentioning the horses and animals that we see, Allah says, and He creates that which you do not know. So there are creation that we're not aware of, that we've not seen ever in our life, for example. Allah says in the Quran that He created the heavens and the earth, and we believe there are 7 layers of what we refer to as heaven, which is a sky above, or whatever term you want to use, the universe, whatever term you want to use to it. We believe there are 7 layers. We're just in the first lower one. Now, in these 7, Allah mentions in the Quran that He put creation. وَبَثَّ فِيهِمَا مِن دَابَّةٍ. Allah put in them creation. Dabba is a term that something that makes a noise when it walks the earth, for example, like does this noise, right? It walks. It's a creation, essentially. So Allah mentions that there are multiple creation like that. So there are many things that are from the unseen, meaning they are beings or things. It can be objects, it can be beings, can be like the throne of God, for example, something we've not seen. Can be any of these things. Like I said, heaven and hellfire. It doesn't have to be a living being. But there are many things and beings that we have not seen. And the reason we believe in them, we believe in what we're told. So there are many things of the unseen world that we're not told about. So have no even clue what these things are. But what we're told, we believe in what we're told because it comes from the Creator. So when you say, like, what is your position on the unseen? I'm just trying to understand what you mean by my position. But this is just an overview.
Just your view of what is encompassed by that term, right? Like what things fall under that term, let's say. So
yeah, so I believe my answer has answered that question then.
Okay,
yes.
So you would include something like other people's minds. You can't really see what's happening in their minds, right?
No.
Would you say
no.
that's...
Mind. I thought you mean the physical, like brain. No, if you mean the mind,
Yeah.
then yes, we do not know what goes in the mind of other people, but only God knows. Yes, we don't know what goes on in the mind of other people.
And then,
but I wouldn't
obviously,
say that's the unseen. I wouldn't necessarily use the term unseen for it, because the mind is it something to be seen anyways? That's a different question now. If you're talking about consciousness on the mind, is it a physical thing? that you see anyway, so we can put it under objects of seen and unseen. So it would be,
Right.
but yes, we do not know what goes in other people's minds. Yes.
And things like atoms and molecules, are you going to add that into the unseen world, or do you think that's more like physical world?
No, we can see them. Can't we see under microscope? Can we see some form of thing? We can. If a human being can see something, any human being, then it falls under.
Well, we can't really see atoms, right? A proton and an electron. You can see the effects of those. So do you classify that as unseen or physical?
No, it's still seen, but it's more now. We're talking about macro and micro. Like if you see something on a macro level, is the same thing. I still saw it, even if I don't see the minute detail. Like a human body right now, I don't necessarily see the exact every single atom of the body, but we still say that we see the body. So macro and macro don't change. But what's the point of these questions? I'm trying to get. Like, what are you trying to ask when you ask these questions? Like, what's the end goal of a naturalist for asking what's the unseen? Because I'm just trying to like connect the dots here. What's the point of these questions?
Okay, maybe it seems odd that I'm asking you a question like this. No, it's just it's an area where I think divides us in terms of my worldview and yours. The classification of what we consider to be part of reality and what you consider as part of a greater reality and what I don't consider to be part of reality. Okay. So for example,
So what is your epistemology then? What is your
what's naturalism?
What do you consider? Okay. So do you consider things, so it's, even if you say naturalism, you're asking about seeing, which is one of the 5 senses of empiricism. Do you say that, but you're saying empirically general, this is your sources of knowledge? What falls under empiricism?
What do you mean by empirically general?
5 senses.
Well, 5 senses is one part of
I mean, that's the only way you can know about
empirical knowledge. Right. We can only, every human, I believe, can only take in information through your senses. You know, you're either reading something, or you're hearing something, or you're seeing something, right? So that's how we are perceiving the outside world, right?
But you're conflating things a little bit there. I wasn't talking about perception. I was talking about actual existence. So knowledge, I can know of the existence of something else. I don't need to perceive it.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, ontology is different to epistemology, right? So ontologically, for me, the physical world, the laws of nature is all that exists, right? So that's where we would more.
But I wasn't asking about what exists. Again, you went to ontology. I was ontology. I was not asking about what exists. I was asking you, do you only believe the only way you can know about something, or the only way something can exist, the only way you can know about something, or that it exists, is it has to you either need to see it, smell it, or touch it, or any of these things?
No. The scientific method is another way that we can know something. Okay. Obviously, you're still taking that information in through your senses ultimately, right? So let's say, for example, scientists write papers. Okay. There's some information, maybe a documentary about quantum mechanics or something like that. I mean, I'm taking that information in, but I'm referring to testimony of scientists that have done the research in that field. Or
so you're saying, so you're essentially saying, no, it's not the only sources of knowledge. We can learn things through testimony. We can learn things through, let's say, what's the word? Intuitive knowledge, for example. Like you intuitively know that you exist, for example, certain things like that, right? Then you're not. So if this is the case, now what is your position on the existence of the universe? Do you agree with the scientific consensus that exists, whatever that is? Because Jesus, he said that we can learn things through the scientific method. Do you agree with the position of cosmologists today that the universe that we exist in has a beginning?
Sure.
A starting point, or whatever that they call the Big Bang, or whatever term you want to use. Okay.
Yeah. So T equals 0 would be the beginning of this universe.
Sure.
T equals 0 is basically the first moment of the Big Bang.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why you say this universe if we cannot observe or encounter anything else. We can only talk about the universe we're in. So the universe that we exist in, that we are a part of, that we are living in and interacting in, has a starting point. Now, you also, if you take science and you say that science is a method of us knowing things, then we have something called cause and effect. Now, what was the cause for the effect of the universe, referred to as the Big Bang or whatever, the start point of the universe, which is only atom compressed into a very small singularity that therefore expanded very quickly. And we know that these atoms and whatever molecules are not living beings that move and act on their own. Now, what was the cause for the beginning of the universe and the existence of the universe and the compressing of the universe and the expansion of it and all of that? What was?
So can I just ask you, just to clarify, are you going to an argument of contingency, or
No,
do you want to do something else? Okay, I understand that, but I mean, this is very similar to what you would be asking if you were going to the argument of contingency, right? All things are contingent or a necessary being. I mean, I just want to fast track it if it is. Okay, so I will, yes, everything.
Let me highlight something. I'm not
it depends on something else.
No, I'm not here.
What was your question?
You seem like you're the type of atheist that deals with philosophical arguments with people who use philosophical premises and conclusions. No, I'm here. Look, something which needs to be a wake-up call for many people is that 99.9% of the people, for example, that are going to watch this material are not familiar with philosophical rhetoric. They don't know what ontology is. They don't know epistemology. They don't know any of these words. So I cater for actually the existence of living human beings who are normal people. If that makes sense.
Okay.
So I choose.
Ask your question again, and I'll answer it without going anywhere else.
Perfect. Yes. Don't like think step. Oh, where is he going? Right. Let's have a discussion.
Sure, okay.
Right? I was asking a simple question. The universe that we exist in, that we live in, has a starting point. The universe that has a starting point that we live in has to come from something. Has to be caused by something, whatever that thing is. Now, whatever causes the universe. Now, by definition, I'm asking you what caused the universe, because by definition, it needs certain attributes. It cannot cause the universe, compress an entire universe into a singularity, and then expand it full of atoms if it doesn't have knowledge and power we cannot even comprehend. So, do you agree with that, or do you disagree with that? And if not, can you tell me what did that? What caused the universe?
No problem. Okay. So, look. I mean, obviously, this is a caveat. I mean, this is a disclaimer. I don't think that we obviously don't exactly know what the reason is, but I'm going to do my best to answer you and tell you what I believe. All right?
No, I'm sorry. Maybe you didn't understand my question. I wasn't asking why the universe was caused. I was asking what. You said two separate things. I'm saying whatever causes the universe will require necessary attributes. I'm not asking the reason why it did it. We can come to that discussion later, but it's a fact that there has to be something that caused the universe.
Yeah, this is literally the contingency argument, but it's fine. So
it's not,
because you're saying it's necessary attributes, etc. So ultimately, I believe that this universe.
Again, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I need you to a little bit dislocate from philosophical rhetoric. I wasn't using the term necessary as an opposite of contingent. I'm not using philosophical argumentation.
Okay.
By necessary, I mean
because you're using the same terminology. Okay.
No, necessary exists in human language. Everyone uses the word necessary. You know, it's necessary for you to separate these things. But you think human philosophical language. That's the problem.
Because I talk to so many people, and when they're saying the word necessary, there's certain connotations.
Yes,
there's certain
no, I'm using it linguistically normally. By necessary, I mean it must have these attributes, or it cannot cause the universe without some attributes.
Let's make a distinction here. So one is what I'm going to call. So I'm just going to say for myself. I don't want to speak for any other naturalists or any other scientists. Okay. So what I call the observable universe or this local instantiation of a universe is basically the thing that started at the Big Bang, the thing where all of that we exist in. Basically, it's kind of like a bubble. Okay. Think of it more like a bubble. It started with the Big Bang. It expanded through inflation. Inflation. And we exist inside this universe, and we exist inside a galaxy and a solar system, et cetera, and there are multiple galaxies inside this universe. Okay. So that's the local observable universe. I think it's about 90, they estimate about 90 something, 96 billion light years across or whatever. Started at the Big Bang, 13.77 or 13.8 billion years ago. Okay, so that's the local universe. Now, I personally believe that there is a, it's like, imagine a bath, okay? You run a bath, you put some bubble bath in, and the bath is making bubbles, okay? We exist in one of those, and it's not necessarily that it's a multiverse, okay? But we exist in one of those bubbles. But outside of the bubble that we exist in, there is a something that has existed for eternity, okay? So it's eternal. It created or spawned this universe through natural processes, okay? Whatever the natural processes is. Alexander Vilenkin thinks that it was quantum tunneling of singularity. Alan Guth thinks it was something else. Stephen Hawking thinks it was something else. It doesn't really matter what it was. There's something that exists eternally, and we were a bubble in the bubble bath that was created 13.8 billion years. But outside of our little bubble, okay, there is something that existed eternally. Now, that's kind of some of the attributes that of God. For example, it's got the power to create universes through natural processes. However, it doesn't have will and volition. It can't say,
no, it depends on what you mean by natural processes.
Decide to...
I don't agree with that. But anyways, I'm going to let you finish what you think are the necessary attributes right now. You said creates a world.
So it can create universes through natural processes. Okay. Now, as yet, maybe undiscovered. Maybe we have discovered it. Maybe it is quantum tunneling or some other natural process, but only by natural laws. Okay, not by will or choice or free will or a God basically deciding to create a universe. Okay. But it exists eternally.
What other attributes exist eternally? Okay, what else?
Yeah, power to create universes. It's got enough power to create an entire universe.
Yeah, okay, which is unimaginable for us, which is what we call all powerful, essentially. Okay, and knowledgeable.
It would know. I mean, not necessarily a disembodied mind or a mind that exists.
And nobody said mind. We're saying knowledge.
But,
I use the term
but it would know since it's created and it's part of the greater universe or the cosmos or whatever else is out there. It would have some kind of knowledge of what's actually happening because it's happening inside this thing. So it's basically naturalistic pantheism. So it's very similar to naturalistic pantheism, which is basically pantheism, but it's not a deity. It's just natural laws and processes.
Okay. So now let me unpack all of this going in circles of bubble bath and all of that, and just
it's just an analogy for you to.
No, it's okay.
To explain.
Just take us back to human language. So we started this conversation. You said two things. You said your sources of knowledge are, for example, testimony and empiricism and intuitive knowledge. And you said, yeah, this is how you believe, and you're a naturalist, and this is how you believe you can know about things. Then you jump on to tell us, there are multiple universes that you believe. Look at the atheist using the term that you believe exist. Wait. Allow me to finish. That's what you said. You want to change it as a different story. That you believe exists other than a bubble that we exist in, which obviously contradicts everything we just said about sources of knowledge, because you can never know about them because you're limited to the universe that you're in. So you have to believe, whether you like the word or not, you have to have blind faith that there are other alternative universes, because you can never see, observe, or bring any evidence for these alternative universes. Stephen Hawking's theory anyways, which has no evidence, just to try to escape the existence of God. Then you add on top of that because you find an issue now, the universe has a beginning, would require a cause. So now you say, okay, I'll believe in a cause. But because you guys believe in God, and I don't want to say the word God, I'm going to say this cause is powerful, knowledgeable. But you know what? He just does things in physical ways, in natural ways. He just doesn't do it in other ways. And he doesn't have a will. Honestly, do you think as an atheist that this is a rational position to have? You just contradicted what you started with. And you are essentially just going around the fence.
No, hang on. You're making a claim that I'm contradicting.
How about the contradiction? I already said how, if you were
So
listening. I said that you
explain.
started by, I'm going to repeat it very quickly. I said that you started by, we talked about the idea of the sources of knowledge. And then you bring something that you say you believe in, which you have no evidences for, and you can never have evidences for, which is not, then we don't care about. It's just like someone says, I believe in a pink flying elephant somewhere. Like it's something you cannot observe. Oh, and it's invisible and nobody can observe or sense. It's similar to say that I believe that there's alternative universes, because you can never observe these things or see them. They even fully discover the universe that we exist in, let alone say that there are other universes that exist. Okay? Now, this is what I mean by contradiction, the idea of how you know about things as a naturalist. Now, on top of that, you bring the idea of God into the picture, and then you just don't want to call it God. So you say it does things in a physical manner or a naturalistic manner or whatever. Why? Where do you bring this necessity from? Why does it have to be?
Sorry, just explain that again. Why does he have to bring
Why
up
does the
what
creator,
this is?
you were thinking about something else, but okay. Why does the creator need to start the universe in a physical, naturalistic way? Why does it have to be that way? Why?
But
If it's an eternal thing that has power beyond our imagination, why does the eternal thing that has knowledge and has power beyond our imagination, eternal, and can create universes, why can it create the universe, but in a way not physical to and materialistic the way you wanted to say? It does. Why
because
cannot?
it
Why can it not
only
bring something into existence?
functions.
Why?
Hang on, because it only functions by natural laws and processes. So
What
it
functions by
can't
natural laws?
it can't override natural laws and processes. It
And
can't
where do you
go
bring this from?
against natural laws. Sorry?
Do you understand that what is called natural laws is what we function in the universe, like laws of
Yes.
gravity, electron,
Yes.
all of these things, which are
Sure.
created by that thing?
In a way,
So what
yes.
makes you think? So what makes you think that he created the world and he restricted the world with these?
He,
these
because you're
laws?
anthropomorphizing
No problem.
this.
Let's use the word it. Let's use the word it. No, I don't. I'm not using the word he in a man or a woman, because we don't believe God is
Okay.
a man anyway. Okay, so it created. I'm just using language. So if it created the universe and gave it the laws that it's in, you somehow are trying to tell us that it is
It
restricted by
didn't
the same
give.
laws that
Hang on. Because you're constantly
it
like
created the universe.
you're using the terminology that you used to, and
No,
trying
I'm
to
sorry.
fit your worldview into this a different worldview.
No. Let me ask you
So
a question.
it's not
You said
giving the laws. Okay.
no.
The
You
laws
said
are part of.
you said
Yeah.
wait. You said it creates universes.
Yeah, through natural laws. Yes.
If it
And
creates
processes.
universes, no. If it creates universes, then by definition, the laws that are in the universe that is created by that
Okay.
thing is given by that thing. So I don't know which part of
Just
from that are
be
you missing.
careful when you're using. So I'm using the word created. Okay, just in terms for ease of use, right?
Yeah,
But it's not
cause the
thinking.
created are synonymous.
It's not thinking about creating universes, right? It's
Again, we're not talking about
natural
the world
processes.
right now.
All right. Okay, just so that
No,
we're
again,
clear, it's not something that's deciding to create a new universe.
look, we're just
Okay.
going in a circle now. Look, you made the claim that you cannot say it's given it its laws. No, I can, because if it creates it, then by definition, an outcome of that is it's given it its laws. Now you're making a claim which is absurd, which is what I was saying, is that these laws restrict that thing, whatever that thing is. It can only operate within that laws. So why would it create something within these laws and give it these laws because it creates it? And then at the same time, you try to tell us that it is restricted by the natural laws. That makes no sense. Why do you believe that anyways?
So it's complicated, and I didn't actually want to. This is not something that I wanted to get into too much today. But okay, so. But you were asking, so we're on this.
Okay,
we're on this
Nate.
train.
Look, Nate.
Yeah.
No problem. Look, I'm going to tell you something very simple. My main interest when I talk to someone is whether they believe in a creator or not, because that is where they're going to end up in the afterlife. The most important thing is whether someone is a believer or disbeliever in God. That is the most relevant, important conversation for me. Now, the other sign points that you wanted to talk about is not relevant for a Muslim, really. That's why I asked you, why did you want to have this question? Now, when I got you in this idea of it's a contradiction and you have no proof anyways, why would you believe it does things through natural processes? You didn't have an answer really. And I know you don't have an answer. It's just a belief that you have. But the reason you have that belief, Nate, is because you don't want to accept the idea of God. Basically, you don't want to use the term God. You don't want to accept that there is something that is called God that brings the universe into existence. But what you're missing is everything you admitted to in our conversation, in the end, leads you by necessity to come to that conclusion. Even the will, I can use an argument and tell you why it must possess a will, because things in the universe are different from one another, which therefore implies a necessity of choice. Because you have to choose, this is going to be black, this is going to be green, this is going to be a rock, this is going to be sky. And without choice, everything will be the same. You're not going to have objects that are distinct from one another by color or shape or size or whatever. So what you're missing is what you've admitted to so far already necessitates that you have to believe in a creator. You have to believe in a God. In the theistic position that we hold, powerful in a way we do not know, has a will and creates the universe. Now, you can struggle with that. You might have your own reasons why you don't want to accept the existence of a creator.
No, it's not about me wanting to accept it or not. Because, okay, so I have to stop you here, because I don't want to go into this, because all you're going to do is throw the fact that, there is no scientific consensus on anything that I'm going to say.
I never said that.
But I'm just saying, if I go into why I believe this, okay, if I go into why I believe this, it's just going to be, well, you've got no evidence for this, blah, 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 blah. So why do I believe this? Because it makes more sense in this world. One second, Nate. If you already admit that whatever you're going to present is things which are with no evidence and no proof, then yes, we could save the time in you presenting things which have no evidence and no proof. Okay. Instead of you saying saying the thing is, for the vast majority of stuff that I believe, okay, I take scientific consensus on. Okay, let's say, for example, evolution, Big Bang Theory, etc., etc. When you go to outside of this universe, you're immediately going into the realm of speculation. It doesn't matter who I cite, from Stephen Hawking to whoever, it's going to be speculation, because as you've already said, that's not the case. Okay,
do you know what the
you can read is? Yes, of course I do. But do you know what theoretical physics is?
No. Can you tell me what is
a
scientific method?
It's methodological naturalism. I mean, it's literally
What's the definition?
It's falsifiability. It's papers, peer review, etc. What exactly do you want me to say about scientific method?
It's studying the physical natural world through experimentation, repeatability, and falsification. There's a definition of the scientific method.
Yeah.
It only falls under this, what you can put under a microscope, what you can naturally materialistically study. Otherwise, whatever you bring into the table is no longer the realm of science. Now, you can call it philosophy, you can call it theorizing about things, you can, whatever term you want to use, you can say, but it doesn't fall under the definition of a scientific method, which can be demonstrated, falsified, or proven. So if it's not under the scientific method, you can use the term science all you want. Just because a guy is called scientist said it, does not make it science. It just means that it's, we both disagree.
Okay, wait. Hang on. Yes, we do. However,
therefore,
the problem is
outside of that is not science.
Hang on. Do you agree that theoretical physics still falls under the realm of scientific method?
Do you agree that whoever is studying quantum physics and quantum mechanics today, they call it number one, baby science. Number two, they tell you anyone who says they know anything about it, they don't know anything about it. So it's a bunch of so if it's just a bunch of theories that we're still discovering and learning about, I'm saying it doesn't fall under, you can say this is scientific knowledge. It's not scientific knowledge. If it doesn't go through the scientific method. Anyways, in the end, we just, in a way, we're not really going anywhere fruitful. If you're saying, in the end, Nate, if you're saying, you admit that the positions you take are fringe positions of things which have no evidences of that certain people have said, and in the things that you take the consensus or agreement of scientific community on right now, for example, about the cosmology, it's not things which you are disagreeing with anyways. Whether it is the beginning of the universe or all of these things, we agree, okay, the universe, there's a beginning to it, there's a cause, and that cause will have necessary attributes, and we were discussing what these necessary attributes are. All we need to do as Muslims is to demonstrate the existence of what you refer to as an eternal entity that creates the universe through whatever you want to use, naturalistic process or whatever process you want to say, but an eternal entity that is powerful in a way you cannot comprehend and knowledgeable and brings the universe. You can say you're atheist all you want, but once you make that definition, you're stuck now that this entity by definition would require well, and I was telling you why it would require well. And also, you cannot say that it's restricted by natural laws when it is literally the one that started the natural laws in the universe that we are living and existing in. Anyways, Nate, that is like, I would say my final statement. This before I move on to the next person. Anyways, it was a pleasure talking to you. I appreciate your mannerisms and respectful discussion. I hope I didn't say anything offensive. It was not the intention.
That's fine.
And
I hope you also.
I hope,
Yeah, I hope that you also feel that I was courteous and gave you time to speak, and never try to speak over you or anything like that. I have lots more to say, but I know you want to get to your other guests, so that's cool. We could have another conversation some other time when you're less busy.
Absolutely.
Cool.
I would say, actually, from what I see from you, you're very honest towards your positions of atheism, and you're very close to now the position in which you would call actually believing in God, or you want to call it deism or whatever, and then very close to the next steps that follow. I would put you in that category because you are a lot more sincere, I would say, than most atheists out there with themselves.
Thank you.
Anyways, Nate, it was a pleasure talking to you.
Awesome. Thanks. Cheers. Bye.